2 days ago, the Prime Ministers of Australia and Britain went on television and told their people to prepare for pain. Higher fuel bills, higher food prices, tighten your belts, we'll do what we can. Then Donald Trump went on television and he said something very different. He said America is winning. He said the economy is roaring back. He said we are going to hit them extremely hard over the next 2 to 3 weeks. We're going to bring them back to the Stone Ages where they belong. Now, either Trump is the most delusional president in American history, or he knows something the rest of the world doesn't. By the end of this video, you're going to seriously consider the second option, and that should disturb you. Let's establish where we are. America is currently fighting what the Pentagon is calling Operation Epic Fury, a military campaign against Iran. 50,000 U.S. troops are already deployed in the Middle East. Reserve letters have gone out. Pizza deliveries to the Pentagon have reportedly spiked. That last one sounds like a joke. Military analysts actually track it. They call it the Pizza Index. It's real. There are bets on prediction markets, real money, hundreds of thousands of dollars, that a ground invasion of Iran is imminent. The people making those bets usually have inside information. One individual placed $200,000 on a ground invasion happening. If it does, he walks away with over $1 million. So a ground war with Iran may be days away. Here's the problem. Everyone who has looked at a map of Iran agrees a ground invasion would be a catastrophic mistake. Iran is not Iraq. It is not Libya. The country is roughly 3 times the size of France. It has the Zagros mountain range running along its western border. Perfect terrain for guerrilla warfare, drone strikes, ambushes. To the east, you have vast desert. Approaching from the south, you're far from Tehran with mountains in your way. America has 50,000 troops in the region. Military planners estimate you'd need 3 to 5 times that number just to begin a serious ground campaign. And yet, the invasion appears to be happening anyway, which forces you to ask, why? Here's what you need to understand about the Strait of Hormuz. It is a narrow waterway, roughly 33 kilometers at its narrowest point, sitting right on Iran's coastline. And through it flows approximately 20% of the world's oil supply. 20% sounds manageable until you break down who depends on it. Japan gets roughly 75% of its oil from the Middle East. South Korea, heavily dependent. India, significantly exposed. China imports about 75% of its oil needs, most of it flowing through or near that strait. Europe relies on Gulf oil as well, but it's not just oil. Because Iran's pressure on the strait is already causing multiple shortages. Oil, yes. LNG, yes. But also phosphate, ammonium, sulfur, urea. These are not obscure industrial chemicals. These are the raw ingredients of fertilizer that grows the food that feeds roughly half the planet. And then there's helium and sulfuric acid, both critical to the production of semiconductors. The chips inside every phone, every server, every AI system running right now. So let's be precise about what a prolonged war in the Middle East actually threatens. It's not just expensive petrol. We are talking about a global food production shock, a semiconductor shortage that could freeze the AI industry, and an energy crisis that hits every major economy at once. The global economy, in other words, does not merely slow down, it fractures. Now, here's where it gets interesting. Let's look at who has oil that is not in the Middle East. Venezuela holds the world's largest proven oil reserves. Canada has vast oil sands. The United States has significant domestic production. Russia has enormous reserves. If the Strait of Hormuz closes, if the Gulf descends into war, if Saudi Arabia, Iran, Iraq, the UAE, and Kuwait are knocked out of the global oil market simultaneously, the world does not run out of oil. It just has to buy it somewhere else, specifically North America and Russia. Now, suddenly what looks like chaos starts to look like positioning. The pressure on Canada, the interest in Greenland, the moves toward Venezuela, the pressure across Latin America, these aren't random provocations. They start to resemble the construction of something else entirely, a resource fortress. Look at nitrogen, essential for fertilizers. The countries that produce more than they consume are overwhelmingly North America and Russia. Look at fresh water, one of the most important resources for long-term stability. North America, abundant. Russia, abundant. Europe, stressed. The Middle East, critical. Africa, severe. Southeast Asia, vulnerable. When you map where resources exist and where they are running out, you start to see where the future pressure points are. North America and Russia sit on top of food, energy, water, and fertilizer. Everyone else is dependent. So here's the uncomfortable logic. If the Middle East collapses as a stable supplier of resources, whether by accident or design, Europe, Japan, South Korea, India, and China become far more dependent on North American exports. That means they need American dollars. That means they keep buying American debt. And suddenly, America's massive debt problem becomes much easier to sustain. The system doesn't collapse. It gets a lifeline. Now you might be thinking, this is too complex, too strategic. Trump doesn't think this way. Fair point. But others do. There has long been a school of thought that the current global order, built on finance, globalization, and interdependence, is fragile. That it will eventually break under its own weight, and that the smartest move is not to prevent that collapse, but to prepare for it, to build resilience, to secure resources, to become indispensable when everything else fails. Russia has already moved in that direction, restructuring its economy around energy, food, and military production. And now it appears the United States may be exploring a similar path, not preserving the global system, but repositioning for what comes after it, a self-sufficient, resource-rich bloc, a fortress economy, exporting stability into a world that has lost it. Zoom out one final time. For decades, the global system was built around one idea: stability through interdependence, trade, finance, alliances. It made the world richer. It also made it more fragile. Because when one part breaks, everything feels it. What we may be witnessing now is not just a conflict, but a transition from a globalized world to a fragmented one, where nations are less connected, more defensive, and increasingly focused on survival. And if that transition requires conflict, economic shock, or even a war that cannot be easily won, then that may be a price some leaders are willing to pay. Because the calculation is simple. If the old system is already breaking, then the real question is not how to save it, but who benefits from what replaces it. Here's what we don't know. We don't know if this is a deliberate strategy or a series of decisions that only look like one. We don't know if there is a master plan or if people are simply reacting to events in real time. We don't know if this kind of fortress approach would even work, or if trying to reshape the world would end up collapsing everything, including America itself. What we do know is this: some leaders are preparing their people for hardship, others are projecting confidence. Both cannot be right, and maybe neither of them are. But one thing is certain: something very large is shifting in the global system, and when systems like that break, someone, somewhere, is always ready to profit from the wreckage.